Merci à tous d'être avec nous.
Thank you to all to be with us today.
Thank everyone for joining us at today's genuinely historic event. 2 years ago, the CBC asked Canadians to identify the 7 wonders of Canada. This is a tough choice. In a land so rich in wonders like the Rocky Mountains, Niagara Falls, and the old Quebec City. But at the end of the judging, a big shed on the Halifax wharf was designated one of the Magnificent Seven. And that is, of course, Pier 21. Now why? Because Pier 21 doesn't have the majesty of the Rockies or the grandeur of the falls, ni la beauté de la vieille capitale. But this place is every bit as much a symbol of Canada. Le quai 21 symbolise qui nous sommes.
We are a country of new arrivants, linked by a common quest of freedom, of democracy and opportunities. Millions of people walked on Pier 21 between 1928 and 1971.
Symbolizes who we are. A nation of newcomers bonded together by a common quest for freedom, democracy, and opportunity. 1 million people passed through Pier 21 between 1928 and 1971. If these walls could talk, they would speak volumes. They would speak of the very first chapters in the stories of 1 in 5 Canadians alive today. They would tell of long, exhausting journeys, of escape from oppression and suffering, of gratitude for peace and freedom, of loved ones left behind, of joyful family reunions, of lament for a distant homeland, and hope for a better future. They would also tell us of the tales of the 500,000 Canadian soldiers who passed through Pier 21 during the Second World War, the men and women who went back overseas to defend the same values that attracted immigrants to Canada. I'd like to share a few stories of those who crossed the threshold of Canada right here. These
memories were carefully kept for posterity by the Society of Pier 21.
Carefully gathered for posterity by the Pier 21 Society. English war bride Ada Sheila Laird arrived with a baby and a 2-year-old in 1946. A year earlier, her wounded Canadian husband, had been sent home. Halfway across the ocean, she writes, I wondered if my husband still loved me. Now, 56 years later, after 2 sons and 1 daughter, 7 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren, my husband says being married to me is like hanging on to a comet. What joy it was to celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary with some 100 Canadian friends. We have indeed been blessed. John Martins arrived at Pier 21 from Ukraine in 1948. He had fled his homeland along with his mother and 5 siblings after his father had died while being transported to a Soviet concentration camp. We were hoping to someday come to a free country, John writes. From here, he settled in Chilliwack, BC, married a Canadian, and his dreams came true. To quote him, I proudly display my Canadian citizenship papers on the wall at our home. I was unable to get formal education during my years, but all of our 5 children have obtained university degrees, and I am so proud of them. Holocaust orphan Hélène Maillard, née Hersman, arrived at Pier 21 in 1948. Hélène was a 13-year-old girl with pigtails, carrying all her worldly possessions in a little brown suitcase. Decades later, she donated that suitcase to the museum. She writes, I'm glad it is now in its appropriate resting place along with such others, all having contained the tears and the hopes awaiting us in this new land. These stories, so rich in tears of sorrow for what was left behind, are equally rich in tears of joy for the new lives here in Canada. Reading these stories, ladies and gentlemen, reminds us what a fine thing, what an extraordinary privilege it is to be a Canadian. And they remind us how important it is to remember these stories and to pass them on to younger generations so we never forget how truly blessed we are. C'est pourquoi j'ai le grand plaisir d'annoncer
This is why I have the great honor to announce today the designation of Pier 21 as a National Museum of Immigration in Canada.
Ce nouveau musée national de deuxième seulement hors de notre capitale sera un puissant monument incarnant le rôle vital que l'immigration a joué dans la création de notre pays. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to announce today the designation of Pier 21 as Canada's National Museum of Immigration. Thank you very much. Excuse me, I should just quit when I'm ahead. Just end it here. This new National Museum, which is only the second outside of Ottawa, will serve as a powerful monument to the vital role immigration has played in the building of Canada. To augment the generous contributions of those who have donated to the Pier 21 Foundation Endowment Fund, our government will also provide funding to support the development and operations of the museum. This place will be, in many ways, a living museum, an ever-evolving chronicle of the Canadian immigration story. It will tell the story not just of the Europeans who passed through Pier 21, but of those who came later from Asia, Africa, and from our own hemisphere, and of those who will come tomorrow. Because newcomers will be as much a part of Canada's future as they have been of our past. Nous allons continuer à accueillir les gens qui cherchent un refuge contre la violence, l'oppression et les privations,
to welcome those who hope to work and prosper and want to start a family and establish their roots.
Seeking sanctuary from violence, oppression, and privation, hoping for opportunities to work and prosper, and those looking to build families and to set down roots. Let me just add that many people contributed to making today's announcement possible. I want to recognize the tremendous efforts in particular of the Society's founding president, Jean-Paul Leblanc, and the people who have carried on his work. Many of you I know are involved because the Pier 21 immigration story is your own story as well. People like current Pier 21 Foundation Chair Ruth Goldblum, herself Ruth is herself a descendant of Russian immigrants who arrived nearly a century ago, like Pier 21 Society board member Kristen Tynes, whose loyalist ancestors were among the first African Canadians to settle in Nova Scotia after they arrived in 1783. Your community and your country are grateful for all that you have done to convey the significance of this place to your fellow Canadians. So let me conclude by paying homage to you all and to this special place with the words of the late J.P. Leblanc from his Ode to Pier 21, and I quote, "Silent I am the platform that processed kings, queens, princes, and paupers, intrepid pioneers, detainees, inadmissibles, lost souls, the penniless, the threadbare, refugees from tyranny, oppression, and revolutions, and displaced peoples. Each sought land, hope, harmony, liberty. I greeted them all." Merci.